Welcome back to the Real Couchwives podcast, where we overanalyze all things Bravo.
With Real Housewives of Beverly Hills returning this week, we're checking in on some of our favorite OG cast members.
Who do we think got into an altercation with a former boy band?
Who's been continuing to stir up drama online?
And who may or may not be the reason that we likely will never see the Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip 4?
You can only guess on that one. So we're checking in on Adrienne, Kim, Camille, Dana, Brandi, and Yolanda.
Yeah, so excited. So let's start with someone I don't think we've seen that recently. He's probably one of the people who have stayed out of the Bravo universe the most, and that would be Miss Adrienne Maloof.
Yeah,
the Maloof hoof. So Adrienne was an OG housewife of Beverly Hills. She was on the show from seasons 1 to 3 before, probably being fired for her last act as a housewife of not returning to the the reunion. Have you heard much of Adrienne in the past few years?
No, and actually I feel like I've always enjoyed it when she does make her like little reappearances on Beverly Hills, but other than that I have zero ideas what she's up to these days.
Well, I'll tell you. So she is a single mom raising her boys in Beverly Hills still. She still lives a super lavish lifestyle from what I can tell. So for those of you who don't know, Adrienne was married to Paul Nassif during her times on the show. He actually was in confessionals. The first few seasons of Beverly Hills, the men were in the confessionals.
I know, I forgot about that. I feel like it's been so long since we've had male castmates that were doing confessionals.
I know.
They used to be so integrated into the storyline.
Even Kelsey Grammer.
Yeah, I know, which was really surprising because you did not think that you were going to get him.
No, for sure. So yeah, we kind of saw their relationship get like kind of rocky on the show. They did end up divorcing shortly after. Apparently it was tumultuous at the time, but apparently now they're like best of friends. They're really good friends and they're like co-parenting together.
Oh my God, I love that. Amazing.
Quick aside, Paul, in the contrary to Adrienne, has remained in the public eye. So you can catch him on television with the show Botched. The plastic surgery show that he does with his fellow plastic surgeon, Dr. Terry Dubrow.
Oh, I didn't know that. Interesting. A little Housewives crossover there.
Yeah, he's the husband of Real Housewives of OC's Heather Dubrow. I saw the name and I was like, oh.
Oh, Dubrow. I think I know this one.
So actually, the most things I can kind of find about Adrienne is some like splashy news on her dating life. So shortly after her divorce, she was dating Rod Stewart's son, who was 19 years her junior. And as of recently, so I don't know if this means that they are back together, but she's had a lot of pictures with Jacob Bush.
Who's that?
Well, I thought that he looked familiar. So he's kind of like from a very prestigious like beer manufacturing family. So his family manufactures like Budweiser, Shock Top, like Michelob. Like he's kind of like a beer empire. So he's from like a well-to-do family.
Oh, very fun.
I thought that he looked familiar. He dated Rebel Wilson in 2020.
Oh, wow. Oh, interesting. Oh, that's crazy. Oh, interesting.
I know.
Yeah. How strange.
Adrienne dated him from 2013 to 2015. But yeah, now they're in like a whole bunch of pictures together. So like, are they back together? I don't know.
Rekindling of a romance, maybe. Love to see it.
Yeah, because she posts like pictures of like her son and then sometimes this guy. So
yeah.
Maybe.
Cool.
And of course, the Maloof entrepreneurship is still going strong. So on the show, we saw that they were owners of the Sacramento Kings, the NBA team, are no longer owning this team, but they do have a minority ownership of the Vegas Golden Knights NHL team.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, so at first I thought it said Golden Nuggets.
The Vegas Golden Nuggets, can you imagine? I wish.
Always goes back to the Golden Nugget. And then she still has minority ownership in like the Palms Casino Resort, Maloof Productions, Maloof Music.
Very
just
cool.
Like that family they got their hands in a lot of
Yeah.
cookie jars.
They really do. They really do. Good for them.
I know. I forgot like how much that was just at the front and center of like the first season, right? Because you just
Yeah.
see her like bringing them to like games and like bringing
Yeah.
them to the like to Vegas to stay in
Yeah.
her hotel. Like she
Yeah.
probably was like the epitome of like what they were thinking with the
Hmm.
housewife, the luxury.
I think so. I think she like they really like scored big when they were able to get her, just because she did bring, this level of kind of like extravagance to the show that I don't think we would have had otherwise. Like we definitely wouldn't be seeing like private jets and stuff like that if it hadn't been for her.
I mean, Camille would probably beg to differ.
Well, yeah, that's true. She, just can't fly commercial until of course it's environmentally friendlier to fly commercial, and then it has to just be first class.
Wow, you really do remember all of this on
Yes.
lock, eh? Like I remember this because I just watched that episode to refresh my memory.
Yeah. Nope, it's burned in here
They were just
forever.
like readily available.
I've just watched them all so many times.
But the other business venture that the Maloof family is doing is that they have a hydration drink called Drink Aid.
Oh,
But
okay.
it used to be called Never Too Hungover, and it was marketed as like a hangover cure. But then recently they kind of rebranded to make it more about the hydration qualities, which I find
Right.
is funny.
Yeah, that which makes sense because it does, like, obviously you need that when you are hungover, but I guess you have a wider market if you're also like appealing to people who are just dehydrated, such as
I mean,
myself, who's
yeah, and
constantly dehydrated.
not to be confused with being thirsty.
Yeah, different.
But yeah, no, I guess also just because like hydration drinks are like having a moment.
Yes. Yeah.
She does continue to like tweet throwback pictures of the show, so
Oh,
she's
that's
definitely
fun.
still like talks about it a little bit. She's done interviews in the past like couple of years, but
Hmm.
overall I think she's a little bit like less in the spotlight
Right.
in terms of like Bravo than the
Yeah.
rest of the women that we're going to be talking about shortly.
Yeah.
So before we move on to our next OG woman, I wanted to know if you have some like memorable moments from Adrienne over the years.
Well, so I seem to remember that there was an appearance that she did. I think it was when she was already off the show, but it was like season 5 or season 6, and she did a magic show. And I'm pretty sure, I feel like Kathy Hilton was the person that was there that was like, "You're doing a magic show?" Do you remember that?
No.
No? Okay. I think she was like promoting something, and she also always had like those like weird parties where it was like super over the top. They were like the one where Paul got dressed up
As
as
a
like a
tree.
tree. Yeah. So that was kind of fun.
I was just reading online, actually, someone mentioned that moment. They're like, and then the
Yeah.
editing made it seem like they got divorced because he dressed up as a tree and she was angry.
I mean, it definitely didn't help. Yeah. And then I think also just like the little tips that she had with LVP, just like in general, but especially when she was like, "I can't believe your daughter went to Las Vegas and didn't stay at the Palms." And like, it's like Lisa Vanderpump was like, "Oh, well, we're just such good friends with the people that own Planet Hollywood.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
we were their guests. Like, what could we do? We couldn't say no. We just have so many people that like want to host us in Las Vegas."
Honestly, those are like the little, just like ridiculous fights that you kind
Yeah.
of live for in like a
Yeah.
housewife, just like those levels of
Right.
kind of like, how is this the life that you're living, that this
Yeah.
isn't something you're fighting about?
Yeah, it's not like your aunt being like, "I can't believe you came to Burlington, you didn't come see me." Like, it's very different than that.
Yeah. And then when I think about Adrienne, I feel like the whole storyline of season 3 was
Yeah,
really about like this secret that Brandi had aired during
a
one of
dinner
the
party.
dinner
Yeah.
parties.
Yeah.
And then it was about Adrienne's surrogacy, right? Like
Yes. Yeah.
carrying her son. So,
Yes. Yeah.
and I guess that information wasn't out at the time and she wanted to kind of be able to tell her kids on her
Hmm.
own time. But then
Hmm.
she like slapped Brandi with a lawsuit and
Yeah.
apparently like made sure that Bravo wouldn't air it. So we
Right.
don't ever get that on the show, right?
I
Like
know.
they're just like this huge drama, like secret is
Yeah.
there, and like it's the whole season, but you don't even know what it
Yeah.
was, and you're just kind of like thinking of it in your head, like what could it
Yeah.
be?
Yeah. Well, so that's just it. It's very much like the Streisand effect where you like, especially when I watched it the first time, I was like, oh my God, what could it be? Like, it must be this horrible, horrible, horrible thing. And obviously, like, it was a big deal to her, and she like wanted it to like, be something that she got to tell her children herself. But like, I think I just like blew it up in my mind that it must be like the worst thing you could possibly do ever. And
Yeah.
like somebody got murdered. I don't know. Yeah, and then it was just like I like went on like I think I waited the entire season to see if I would find out what it was, and then I went on to online afterwards and I like looked it up and I was like, oh, it's just that. Well, okay.
Yeah, like definitely
Wasn't that
not
big of a
Brandy's
deal.
news to tell, but like the
No.
whole like yeah, like not letting Bravo air it and like
Yeah.
slapping her with like a cease and desist
Yeah.
letter.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And then apparently after she left the show, she actually went and did like an interview with like Life and
Oh.
Style magazine or something and talked like all about surrogacy. So like Bravo was pissed.
Oh, interesting. Right, because she didn't have to give them the exclusive or whatever.
Yeah, which is
I
very
mean,
like Robin Dixon like coming out and
yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
the
One
like
cheating
yeah.
on her Patreon instead of on like the reunion or whatever. Yeah. I mean, fair, but come on. Like, you still don't own these people's lives, even if you like pay them, bravo. Like. So there's
That's
gotta be a
true.
little bit of a give or take to it.
That's true. So that's
Man,
Adrienne.
that's Adrienne. Amazing. Yeah, I mean, she was a fun one. I feel like for the most part, I really liked her. I feel like it's having different like viewings of it at different times. I feel like I always feel a little bit differently about each of the housewives at their own kind of in their own way. I think she's had a good life. She's had a good time. She doesn't need to come back or anything like that.
Yeah, and I think that's how she likes it too. Like for a lot of the women, I feel like coming back and just being like a guest of sometimes is just
Yeah.
like the best case scenario. You get to come in,
Yeah.
witness all this craziness and like go
Yeah.
home.
See a little bit of the drama. Yeah, very much so.
And like I don't think she needs a paycheck.
No, I don't think so. She seems to be just fine herself.
But someone who we might be seeing this season is
Yeah,
Kim on
Kim Richards. I know. It's so exciting. She's coming back on season 13, which is going to be really good. She was in the original cast membership for season 1 to 5, and then she's kind of just like popped in along the rest of the time as a guest or like a friend of. Obviously, I think similarly to how you were saying that Adrienne was like a really big get for Bravo because of like the level of like wealth and kind of like what she was able to like show on the show. Kim, I feel like was like a really big get because she had like a famous name, right? She was like sisters with Kathy Hilton. Like she was the one out of her and Kyle that was more famous. And I think a lot of people who were watching the Housewives would have known her from their childhood as well, of like watching, I don't know, the Witch Mountain one. There's like another TV show that she was on too. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I did not get that the first time. They just said she was a
No.
child actress and she was like a big
Yeah.
deal. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I feel like it's more when they're like, and Paris Hilton is our niece,
Yeah.
and you're like,
Yeah.
oh.
That's true. That's true. It's for different generations, I think for sure. But yeah, so Kim, since the show, she's done quite a few things. She's continued to pop in and work within the industry a little bit. She had some movie appearances, some TV show appearances, including a reality TV show with her daughter.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so they were on this show called The Mother-Daughter Experiment, and she was on it with her daughter Kimberly, who I feel like was the daughter that we saw the most on
She
Beverly
was the
Hills.
brunette one.
Yeah, she was the brunette one, and I think she lived with Kim like the most. She was also like the youngest one,
Yeah.
so that like makes sense too. But yeah, so that was something that they got to do together. For the most part, Kim stays off of social media. She really doesn't like do too much. Every once in a while, if she's like promoting something or she has like a segment with Kathy on ET or whatever, she'll put it on there as well.
Oh,
But
really?
yeah, but for the most part, like her social media is like pretty dead. She did recently partner with Pronuvo, which is a healthcare clinic actually. So she has them like linked in her bio, and she has like a couple like sponsored posts from them. And so it looks like she's partnered with them mainly because they are a like healthcare screening clinic. And obviously, we know from like the TV show that a big part of Kim, Kyle, and Kathy's life was, losing their mom to breast cancer. And so I think this is also kind of like one of those things that really like goes hand in hand with what they're passionate about. So it's kind of cool to see that Kim got that opportunity.
Yeah, that's nice.
Partner with them. And then beyond that, so her daughter Whitney actually got married this summer. So that was a big thing that was happening kind of like on social media. Obviously, Kyle was posting about it. All of Kyle's daughters were posting about it.
Right.
And I don't know if you remember this, but it was actually because of that wedding that all of the like drama and like suspicions around Kyle and Mauricio's relationship started to kind of like break out, because people were like, oh, Kyle and Mauricio aren't sitting beside each other,
Yeah,
and they none of the photos that they took as a family like have Kyle and Mauricio, like just the two of them, or they're not sitting but like standing beside each other in the photos.
yeah.
And then people started looking back at like, when's the last time Kyle was wearing her wedding ring and all this stuff. And then shortly after, like I think like the weekend after or something, the news did actually break that like they were separating. And then cameras were picking back up, and then they were like, oh no, we're not separating. But yeah, so Kim's kind of been peripherally part of that drama as well, I guess.
Yeah. No, I do remember that people were posting like pictures together being like, they're not there, like they're not standing together, like
Yeah.
there's Mauricio, there's Kyle.
Yeah.
Separation.
Separation.
I mean, yeah. You gotta trust the fans. They
You
can
do.
they'll uncover everything.
They can sniff something out. They're quite impressive. But yeah, I think that was just a nice moment too, obviously, for Kim, just because she's like, continues to, a big part of her life is being a mom, and something that she was very adamant about on the TV show was how close she wanted to be with her kids. And sometimes it was seen as a bit of like a hindrance as well, because she was maybe a little like too codependent. But that's clearly like something that's like very important to her. And so it's nice that she still gets to kind of have those moments, and that's just kind of continue what she's been up to recently.
Oh, well, that's good. Yeah, I hope that we get to see a little bit more from her on the show.
Yeah.
I feel like Kim is another one of those ones that's just like she's just been through so much. Like I feel like to have such hard parts of your life seen on the show, like you think back to the end of, was it season 1 or was it season 2 where they have
season 1,
where they have the infamous fight in the limo, where Kim tells Kyle that she stole her house, and then Kyle outs her on national television for being an alcoholic.
Well, and then you have like Lisa Rinna come along in season 5 to be like, how do we feel about Kim's sobriety? Like, I'm worried about her. And then
saying she's like close to death.
That's just it. She said, saying that she's close to death, and then she's going and like talking to like everybody about it. And then Kim is like getting into these massive fights with Lisa Rinna. Like, it was like the most explosive moment that we've ever witnessed, probably on TV. I think has to be, or at least is arguably, the Amsterdam fight, right? Like, that was so next level. Season 5 was so intense.
Was that the she called her a beast? It was something before that.
Beast. How dare you? Yeah. Why don't you go eat a piece of bread?
You beast. Kim had some really good one-liners. Like she had some really good insults. Like when she called Brandi a slut pig.
Oh my god. And then she's because she like in season 2 when Brandi has like her crutches and like she goes to the game night and like to like hide the crutches, and she's like, Lisa, well, no, we won't get into Brandi yet. We won't get into Brandi. She's coming.
But yeah, like where did she get these insults? Also, Kim was really big on the finger pointing in people's faces.
Yeah, she was. That's just it. Like I feel like she came across so timid in like the first season, and then she really like, especially like seasons 2. I feel like she like really like held her own in a lot of ways in the other seasons. We definitely experienced a lot with Kim. We definitely saw like some high and some low points with her. But I do miss her. I don't know. I feel like I always am gonna have like a bit of a soft spot for her, just in her like understanding her circumstances and how hard it is to be like a child star and what that can do to you, and how it kind of messes you up. And
that's it. Like, it's so interesting. There's like this book, like The House of Hilton, that was written about like basically the Richards sisters, right? Yeah. But apparently I think it came out more like in the height of Paris Hilton, and it was more like exploring like her family.
Right. Okay.
Because I think like was Beverly Hills out at that time? I'm not sure.
Beverly Hills was more like 2010. 2011 was kind of like its first couple seasons. So Paris Hilton would have been like a few years earlier, like 2000s, early that time.
So yeah, there's this book that like goes into kind of the life of like all of their moms, like Kyle,
Yeah.
Kim, and Kathy's mom. They call her like Big Kathy. And it's just like it's just so interesting. Like you want to almost do like a case study, like on this family, because yeah, like you said, like just the way that they were brought up, like Kim being like a child star, their recollections of having like not really a super like traditional upbringing. Like I think in the first season, Kyle's like, I drove myself to work at like 13 years old. But like what's really interesting too is actually like the Bravo Papers, who's Bravo and Bro Talks's like new podcast. She got the book, which apparently was really difficult to find.
Interesting.
Has kind of been summarizing it a little bit. And yeah, like what's so interesting about it is just like the girls' recollection of their mom is so different and so stark comparison to everyone else's recollection of her.
I'm sure.
And it's just like there's so much stuff that's gone on in this family that's impacting the way that the girls live. Like even Kim, she was saying, has kind of been like infantilized a little bit because of like her trauma and like her alcoholism, and like that's just like it's so deep rooted.
Yeah, I know. It's so crazy. And I think there's like been a lot of like really good like deep dives on TikTok about it, like going into all of that kind of stuff as well. So definitely recommend checking that out if you like want to learn a little bit more about kind of like that trio and why they are a little bit like not toxic, but like, it's a volatile situation. Like on top of just being sisters, which can be kind of like hard enough sometimes, like, how they were brought up and how they're living now, I think has a lot of layers to it. So definitely worth a little bit of a deep dive, but it's pretty crazy. It's unfortunate that Kim's kind of like to a certain extent gotten a bit of the short
end of the stick.
Short end of the stick. Short stick. Just because she was the one like supporting this family as a child and like allowing them to have all the nice things that they were having. And now here she is, and she is probably like, I think it's easy to say that she's like the worst off of the three sisters, right? Like, and
at least like from a wealth perspective.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
It's no, it's so crazy. And like it's just so wild too that I think that's what made Beverly Hills so interesting too, is it really balanced like the luxury and just like the things that like the escapism part that you go to like a Real Housewives franchise for, but it also had some like very intense like subject matter and like real drama. And it's also probably why New Jersey was so good for so long. Like it's the ones where they have the families, like these are real family relationships that you're looking at.
And real like the dynamics too were just like so crazy. Like you have like Adrienne and Lisa Vanderpump, who were very much kind of like butting heads. They both kind of wanted to be like the queen bees, like to a certain extent, I would say. And then like the way that Kyle and Camille butt heads at the beginning, but then also having like the dynamics between like the sisters. Like there's just like so many different like factors at play that even though these people have like insane amounts of wealth, like literally Camille, like we'll get into it too. But then having like these like very normal kind of just like little fights of like, you said this about me, and so relatable in that way when it's like completely unrelatable in other ways.
No, for sure. It was very interesting, and honestly like it's a similar one where I feel like it was a little bit of that lightning in a bottle. That's just what we say all the time when we look at old shows. We're just like, but it's so
true.
Good.
It's so true. Because we don't say that about every show, but I feel like this is another one that it applies to for sure.
Yeah, I remember I started on Beverly Hills after watching Vanderpump Rules, and it was a lot easier to get into than like when I started New York after. Like the first season in New York versus the first season of Beverly Hills are not very far apart. But they feel New York feels a lot older.
1,000,000%. Even like Atlanta like feels a lot older. Like it does. This one I feel like, I don't know if it's the production company or kind of what, if it was just like a little bit more maturity of the fact that like OC was already running, New York was already running, I think Atlanta was already running. Like those ones were all kind of like well-oiled machines, and so by the time that this one kind of like came along, it was so they kind of knew, like the production side at least knew how to do it. And the great thing is that the cast didn't know how to do it yet.
Yeah,
So
yeah. No, exactly. So we still got like real glimpses into
yeah,
what they're doing. It's
yeah.
also just so funny that like when you watch the first season, like all like Kyle looks like younger now than she did then. Like
Yeah, I know, it's so crazy.
the joys of
Yeah.
wealth.
Even
Anyway,
see, yeah, sorry, I won't get into
no, no,
it.
no, you can go.
Okay. Well, I was just gonna say, like, even seeing like those early, like, like Botox, like injections and the fillers and stuff that they were getting, like we were seeing all of that, and that like New York was doing it as well, right? I feel like they were always doing like new beauty treatments and stuff, and Ramona was always getting her butt out so that we could see it, like. But like we were always seeing these women get like injections and like plastic surgery. Like Kim had a new nose uh party, right? Like her like coming out party for her new nose after she got plastic
It's
surgery.
so true.
And it's just like, how Beverly Hills is that?
Very, very
uh,
Beverly Hills. And now we can see what it looks like all those years
well,
later.
there you go.
Um,
uh
anyways,
anyway,
our next OG cast member is Camille.
yeah,
Still goes by Camille Grammer, I think, at least on like social
yeah,
media.
I think so. Well, her children's name would be Grammar, right? So maybe
Right.
she wants to like have that
Yeah.
affiliation. Yeah.
That makes sense. So she was an OG housewife on seasons 1 and 2 as well. And then she appeared in almost every other season since then as like a friend of, or at least in like a guest of capacity.
Mhm.
And like someone else we're going to talk about a little bit later, she also has remained quite involved in the Bravo universe in some way or another, almost like a couch wife, as you will, just kind of, tweeting up a storm like
Yeah.
from her home, talking about the episodes.
It's so true. Oh my God. It's so funny that you mentioned that. That's exactly what she does.
Yeah, so it was
uh,
actually like weirdly difficult to find information on what Camille's doing now,
oh
like
yeah.
similar with Brandi, because
Yeah.
all that comes up is just like the drama that they've stirred via social media. And like Camille will like live tweet like episodes of Beverly Hills and
Oh
like
my
say her
God.
opinion on it and like
Oh
call
my
people
God.
out. Like if you go to her Twitter, it's like it's a ride. Yeah, so during like the seasons with Erica Jane,
Mhm.
when she was like going through all the Tom Girardi stuff,
Right. Yeah.
Camille was pretty vocal to kind of call
Yeah.
her out, being like, when we were in Jamaica, like she was crying, but like there was no mascara line. And she'll actually like call out a bunch of people, and I kind of love it.
Yeah. I don't hate it.
But we will actually soon be seeing Camille back on our televisions because well, actually, maybe we won't, but she filmed the Real Housewives Ultimate Girls Trip that may or may not come out
Yeah.
because, you know,
Because of
Brandi.
an incident with Brandy and Caroline Manzo.
Yeah, which we'll talk about a little bit later.
Yeah.
But, so she did film that this year, so maybe we'll get to see that next
Hope
year.
so.
I really hope so. I
I
feel
mean,
like she's
also
been
just
wanting this moment forever.
right. And like Alex McCord was gonna be on it. Like there's just like so many like good people I wanted to catch up with, and I'm upset.
I know, I know.
Don't
It'd be
get
so
that.
good. But
Yeah.
we will see her in another way actually, because she'll also be in The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Yeah, that's
So
good at least.
yeah, so she's been filming that this season. She posted like on her Instagram that she was at the white party with her husband and with her daughter.
Oh,
So
cool.
she'll definitely be there. She's actually had also a pretty difficult life off the show and
Mhm.
even prior to the show. So she's actually a
Mm.
two-time cancer survivor.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so she had endometrial cancer like before she went on the show, and then in
Mhm.
2017 she was diagnosed with skin cancer.
Oh my
But
gosh.
luckily they caught it early, and she's
Oh,
been like
good.
advocating about, screenings and like cancer awareness. And then
Oh, good
she
for her.
also got married. So
Yes.
she is remarried now. She got married in 2018 in Hawaii, was on the show. Kyla was a bridesmaid, which is funny because they now seem to hate each other.
Oh,
Like
well,
some of her rampages now are like about Kyle. So
right.
I
Oh,
wonder what
interesting.
happened there.
Yeah, I don't remember. Interesting.
So yeah, as I said before, it's hard to kind of find out that much about what she's doing right now outside of the Housewives drama. But according to TMZ, she received $30 million in her divorce settlement with
Wow.
Kelsey. Essentially, like,
Damn.
yeah, she you know, she was really vital in helping him get to where he was.
Yeah.
Like when they started dating, like he was broke. So
Yeah.
she very much kind of took a back seat to help him, you know, reach where it is that he
Yeah.
got. So,
Yeah.
you know, he felt that she was entitled to half. So I guess that's still kind of like fueling a lot of her
Good for her.
lifestyle. And then she also worked for like his production company that they had
Yeah.
together for many years. So,
Yeah.
and she probably makes residuals too off of like
Oh, that's true. That's a
you
good
know,
point. Like
modeling, and like
Medium and stuff
she
like
was like an
that.
MTV like dancer or something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Well, and because it was her friend that was the person that did like the Medium show, right? Like she
Oh
based it off of
yeah.
her friend, and then she was like, she I guess like been like, oh, we have to cast Patricia Arquette as Medium and whatever. I don't know. I never saw the show, but I bet it was good.
Sounds great.
It was amazing. If it was
Okay,
based on that dinner party, I'm sure it's amazing.
that's true. So do you have any memorable Camille moments from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills?
You mean beyond the fact that she's a pernicious, pernicious woman? Just reading what was she reading? The Art of War? Like,
Yeah.
no. I mean, I think so many moments are memorable with Camille. I loved her. I like, obviously we like didn't like her in season 1, but I just thought it was like so amazing how like much of a super villain she was in her first season, and then like
Yeah.
this complete and like utter switch that we have in season 2 when she's like divorced Kelsey and like moving into this new part of the role. It's like it's great.
Her first season is so bad. Andy's actually said that she was like the most hated housewife in
Yeah,
America.
yeah,
But it's just so funny to look at that because I feel like that was very much at the early stages of the franchise of the Housewives. And I don't feel
yeah,
like, you know, that type of like villain or like
yeah,
plotster or just like that level of grandeur and like
yeah,
delusion
yeah.
was really like embraced as much as I feel like it now is. I feel
Yeah,
like
it's true. It's true. She did not embrace that like role, and she like quickly switched how she behaved afterwards,
but
right?
even by fans, I feel like it just like I feel like that kind of slowly came to be with like that kind of
Yes.
like those like, you know, iconic villains, because
Okay.
I feel like
Yeah.
now Camille's thought of as like quite iconic.
Yeah.
Her level of like disillusionment and just like obnoxiousness about her wealth in the first season
Yeah.
was like
It
insane.
was
So
insane.
so we just talked about like earlier when you like remembered how like she said she
Yeah.
used to fly PJs like a bunch
Yeah.
of episodes she'd be like, oh my god, this is so obnoxious, I can't believe I'm gonna say this,
Yeah.
but and then like says like super obnoxious thing like
We
Kelsey
have
and
like
I
6
always
nannies, like
yeah, we always fly private, and we have 4 nannies, they rotate. There's 2 nannies per child.
yeah. And then they like move into like what was it, like a 1,600 square foot, 16,000 square, like they move into something that's like ridiculously large for New York City, and she's like, oh, I just don't know how we're gonna do it. It's so small. It's the tiniest apartment in the world. It's got like a million bedrooms.
Yeah,
Like,
and she was like so rude about Mauricio, who was like just a local Beverly Hills realtor.
yeah, exactly. Like, guess we're not gonna be calling him anymore. Oh my god. And then her male friend, was it like Josh or Jack or something, that she like played tennis with, and she was like
Oh,
something about balls.
yeah. Well, what I remember a lot is her dancing when they went to the club.
Yeah, yeah, the dancing is good as well. The dancing's really good. And then, oh my god, she's in like Hawaii with her friend. What was her friend's name?
I
Her
couldn't tell
it's like,
you.
her friend's like a redhead. And she's like Dina, something like that. It starts with, if it's Dee Dee.
Okay.
And like they're like they have like this like male friend over who's like this like kind of old-ish guy, and he's like
Oh yeah.
looking good, Camille, looking good. And then she's just like, it's just so nice to be able to do things for other people. I'm so glad that I can just give you guys so much stuff.
Oh yeah.
There's so many good moments with Camille.
There's a
She's
lot of good
real.
moments.
She's a real one. I love
I
her.
think that's when like the friend was just like saying how like how much she gives back or something, like how
Yeah,
charitable she is, or
so
like
charitable. I'm just so glad that I can give you guys everything. Like,
oh, it's so funny.
yeah, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Camille was the best.
Yeah, I am looking forward to seeing her in Beverly
Yeah.
Hills and hopefully an Ultimate Girls Trip eventually.
Me too. And I like that she always like called out like Dorit for like her like shady finances, and like just is like
Yes.
when she comes onto the show, she knows what she's doing, and I appreciate that. So I am excited to see how she like plays out in season 13.
But that's it. Like she's one that understands the assignment most of the
Yeah.
time.
Most of the time. Yeah, exactly. But yeah.
I'm excited to get to our next
Yeah.
OG.
Miss 25,000 herself.
I also don't know if we can call her an OG. She like
So the thing is, while she was like never a full-time house castmate, I feel like the impact that Dana had on like the early seasons, like it was just so good, right? Like she was like a bit of a good kind of like contrast to Kyle, because like Dana was like coming on talking about like how like her 22-month-old son was like counting in Thai and like do studying jujitsu, like doing all this like stuff. And Kyle was like, my kids just go to the pool, like they just do whatever, like like it was just kind of like that. And Dana was like so over the top about like her wealth and the
so
extravagance
over the
and like
top.
everything that she owned. And yet like seemingly didn't really have like necessarily everything to like back it up a little bit. Doing some research on her, I've seen like a few different alleged net worths, and one of them's like 4 million, one of them's like 6 million, and one of them was 12 million.
Okay.
And I don't know what the truth is, but so now she's doing a podcast.
A
And I just don't know
podcast. Is it
if you
about Bravo?
it is. So it's called Dishing and Drama with Dana. And
Oh my
she
God.
talks about Bravo, she talks about everything. And I'm just like, if you really had like a 4 million, 6 million, $12 million like net worth, would you still be like talking about Bravo and like running a podcast? Like, I don't know.
That's funny. I don't know.
Those are my
Hopefully we'll
thoughts.
get there one day
I
and we'll
mean,
still be
yeah. I guess
podcasting.
let's work to find out.
Subscribe.
But yeah, so Dana does like to very much still be in the thick of it, even though she's like not really like friends with any of these people. She's likes to be part of the drama. We
But
most
that's what,
recently oh sorry, go ahead.
sorry, I was gonna say that's what makes it so much worse and like so much more cringy is that at least like Camille and Brandi, like when they,
Yeah.
are tweeting about it and like
Yeah.
they know these people like
Yes.
pretty
Yeah.
well and like they were
Yeah.
still on the show for like a long time where like Dana was always just such a pick me girl and she always just
Yeah.
like wanted so badly to like get there and I feel like
Yeah.
even with her extravagance and her 25,000 like she just
Yeah.
couldn't and now she's just like on the sidelines dishing about
Yeah.
it. It's
Yeah.
funny.
It's true. It really makes me think of the scene in season 2 when they're having the game night at Dana's house, and that's when Kim hides the crutches that like from Brandy's crutches. And they've like had this whole like little like fight, and Brandi has gone and said that like Kim is doing some kind of illicit substance in the bathroom all night long.
A very specific
It's
one.
a very specific one, a not nice one. And Dana is like saying to Kim, like saying to Kyle, like, it's okay, like, we're gonna get through this, like all of us, like we're all such good friends. And like Kyle's like, okay, like what are you talking about?
Wasn't she
And like
also
it's
really mean to Brandi because she was just trying to like
yes,
go
yeah,
with Kyle and Kim
she really wanted
and
to
it was
like
like
side
at
with
her own
Kyle and Kim.
house.
Like I think she like knew what this was going to do, and like that this was a good opportunity, and she was trying to get everything she could out of it, which I respect. And now she's doing that with her podcast, so I also respect that.
Didn't
uh
she come into hot water with like Bethany or something? Was that one of them
I don't
or
think so, but actually, so something that she did come into hot water with at the end of season 12 last year for Beverly Hills is that Diana Jenkins was obviously the newest
that was
castmate.
it?
Yeah, she was the newest castmate on the cast. And Dana was basically talking a whole bunch of like stuff and gossip and saying things that led to Diana actually asking to like sending like her like a legal letter, basically getting her to like take down those podcast episodes,
Right.
because she was making accusations about like Diana's connection with certain billionaires, ex-billionaires, no longer with us billionaires. And
Right. Yes,
and then
yes, yes.
yeah, and then other like celebrities that Diana, oh my God, Dana and Diana, it's too similar, that Diana had allegedly hooked up with. I think Guy Ritchie was one of them. Justin Timberlake was one of them. It's just like, you know, how would we even know if Diana had done those things? But anyway, so those podcast episodes got taken down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so those are gone. And she also blessed our screens once more in the last couple of years. She actually appeared on not one but two of the Hulu documentaries about housewives. So she appeared as kind of like a, you know, an knowledge expert, subject matter expert for the Housewives of the Hustler, which was about
Oh yeah,
Tom
the Erica
Girardi and
Jure.
Erica Jane. Yeah, that whole scandal. And then she also appeared on the Shaw Shocker one about Jen Shah and like all of her convictions, which I thought was interesting because it made sense, I think, for the Erica Jane one a little bit because she was at least on the show, but like she doesn't know Jen Shah, like she wasn't on that show, but whatever.
Yeah. That's
So
so
that's what
true. I forgot about that.
so that's what David has been up to recently. Beyond that, there was like one little run in with the law, shall we say, that Dana had post Housewives. So in 2014, she was arrested in California for conspiracy to commit wire fraud, and aiding, abetting, and making false statements to government agents. So
Oh,
a lot of wire fraud in this community.
I
It
really
must
just
be.
I feel like everything I learned about wire fraud was against my will from the
Yeah.
Housewives
The Housewives. It
shows.
really was. It really was. Because like, and also like, is it just that easy to commit wire fraud? Like that's what it makes it seem like. It seems like everybody's just like stumbling upon committing wire fraud nowadays. Um,
Oh
but anyways,
man.
after her arrest, she was released on a $250,000 bond.
Wow.
And she actually pled guilty. Actually, she pled guilty. It's very confusing because the arrest was from a California federal grand jury, but then she pled guilty before a Miami judge. So I don't know if she was like in Miami, so she just had to plead guilty in front of somebody, or how that works. If anybody that's a lawyer out there that knows, like let us know how that would
Bravo,
work.
docket.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like they probably actually do have a podcast about that. Um,
Probably.
and so she pled guilty to one count of misprision of a felony, which is apparently when somebody knows that a felony is taking place and you don't notify the police, you don't like tell anybody about it.
Oh my
So I think
gosh.
considering the charges she had against her, if that was all she pled against, that's pretty good. And I think she has to like pay like restitution and stuff now. I think she was on probation for a little bit, so you know it's all squared away now.
Oh wow, that's
But
wild.
yeah.
Dana, who'd have thought Dana would come out with like one of the
Right.
most exciting stories?
Right. Yeah, well, she seems to have had like a pretty interesting life. Like she's had like different like agencies. She actually ran an agency that then this is the agency that then got her into all this trouble, that was doing like product placement in like movies and TV shows. Which is kind of cool. Like that's an interesting thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Who
Was
knows
this
that
before
existed?
or after she was in both of
So
the
so I think
documentaries about
that was before. So that was all before the so maybe that was her connection to Jen Shah, was that she had also been charged with wire fraud.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Oh,
yeah.
that's funny.
So I know that we named two of them, but do you have any other kind of like memorable moments for Dana?
No, those are really the biggest
those
ones.
those are
The
definitely the biggest ones,
25,000.
the 25,000. And like how, okay, well, and I will just say as a professional event planner, her like very sad like board game night like setup was also pretty memorable to me. Like she just like had like some desserts on a table and like really had it like properly, like I think maybe it's like overspent on her budget on like the actual desserts and like didn't think I need to feed people. Like so you know it's a life lesson, something to think about when you're planning events, is that you should feed people. That's all there
Yeah,
is to
as
it.
we're seeing in Real Houses in New York.
It's very important.
It's a big plot line.
People get hangry.
I understand that very much
Yeah,
so. I'm
me
a
too.
different person when I'm hungry.
Oh my god, a million percent. Yeah.
So who's next on our docket?
I think Brandi's next on our
Oh
docket. It's
yeah,
time to
of
talk about
course.
her. I know.
Yeah, so now we've come to Brandi, who definitely made a mark on the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills franchise and continues to do so on and off the air.
Yeah.
So she was a housewife from seasons 2 to seasons 5, and then she comes in with a couple guest appearances throughout the later season. We have not seen her in a little bit, right? Like she came onto Beverly Hills with the whole Denise drama.
Yes.
That was a thing. And now actually this year we saw her back on our screens. So in 2023 we saw her in the show The Traitors, the reality TV show that like Kyle was on, and I think some other people as well.
Like Kyle Cook.
Kyle Cook. Yeah, sorry, not Kyle.
Kyle Richards
from Beverly Hills. And actually, fun fact, she's been on 13 reality TV shows.
Wow, really? Yeah. That's a lot of reality TV shows. I'm surprised.
She's been on so many. So that's what she said in an interview. I didn't like fact check her, but I did go out and see some of them that have come out. So she was on Celebrity Apprentice in like 2015. Yes. So like right after she left Beverly Hills. Then she was on some shows, one of them called Famously Single, one of them My Kitchen Rules, don't know what either of those are. She was on Celebrity Big Brother UK.
Oh, interesting. That's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. I like that.
I guess she liked it so much she was on Celebrity Big Brother US.
Oh, yeah, there you go. That makes sense. It's a good pipeline.
Yeah. She was on something called Marriage Boot Camp, Reality Stars Edition.
Oh, crazy.
And she was on a show with her dad to try to like mend their relationship.
Oh,
but
wow.
Unfortunately,
oh gosh, that must have been hard.
Yeah, unfortunately they did not. And she wrote like 2 books and she has a podcast. So she's like been quite busy.
Yeah, that is pretty active. Did she write the books? I feel like she was at least writing one of the books when she was on Housewives, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Oh, nice. Yeah, good for her. I mean, Brandi's not my favorite. She's not my personal like brand of reality TV like housewife, but I can respect the fact that this is what she does for a living, right? She's always figuring out how to get back on that show or show.
Always. So yeah, actually speaking of like honestly this year, if you try to search Brandi, just like so much Beverly Hills stuff is gonna come up. But this year she's actually like getting back to it, right? So there's Ultimate Girls Trip that was filmed.
Yes.
Except for we just don't know if we're gonna be able to see
that one
because they pushed it was supposed to be releasing before Roni Legacy, but then they bumped up Roni Legacy and they pushed this one out till 2024. And it seems to, I guess, be because like there's just a lot of like drama and controversy that's kind of like clouding this show.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know, it's alleged that there was some kind of like inappropriate encounter of Brandi kind of like violating Carolyn Manzo's space in some sort of way. Is that a fair way to say it?
Yeah, it seems like a fair way to say it. And I'm sure, like, I think what we've at least heard is that it's also been a little bit alcohol fueled, and that like I don't think Caroline Manzo like parties in the same way that the other women of the show do, and so some boundaries might have been crossed.
Yeah, so and Carolyn I think ended up leaving, right? Like
yeah, so Caroline left first and I think Brandi was like asked to leave after that.
To be honest, I feel like all these things just came out. Like I remember kind of hearing about this. Like was this during Scandival? Because if it was, then like it all
Scandival. Okay, it was like in like January, I think. Okay. January, February.
Because I remember like a bit of it, but like I feel like so much happened in January too. Like Rinna like leaving.
Oh and, like, and like Jen Shah went to prison.
And then Jen
like,
Shah
so
went to
much
prison.
Was happening. Yeah.
But yeah, so Brandi has been like pretty vocal this year about this experience, and she said that like production wanted her to come and to bring the party, so she did that, and then she was punished for it, and she says like it's BS, and like Carolyn was fine. And then she actually apparently was so stressed out about this ordeal that she collapsed and had to go to the hospital. She had tweeted that I think she said something like, I can't get away from like Bravo because like one of the doctors treating her's last name was like Cohen or something. And then
there's a lot of Cohens out there, but okay.
And then she said like being held hostage by the threat of a bad edit is partly the problem.
Brandi, you are the bad edit.
yeah, I know. It's like I feel like we just need to like get away from this like bad edit narrative. Like at
Yeah,
this point,
like
like we
come
understand,
on.
like obviously like situations can be like edited in a
Yeah.
way to make you not look as great, but like we've seen you for many years now and like
Yeah, like
you
we
still
know
say
you.
these
I'm
things.
sorry. Yeah, like literally, come
There's
on.
definitely a bit of like a victim complex going
Yeah.
on. But yeah, so she, you know, that's what she's doing recently. We don't
Mhm.
know if it'll come out or not. I hope that we get to see the
I know.
season.
I really hope that we get to see the season. I'm like so intrigued. Like I love that they went to Morocco. Like I just feel like there's like so many elements to it that I really do want to see. So I do hope that like it comes out in some capacity. Like I wonder, I realize that maybe they just need more time to like edit it or like maybe they need to get like approvals from like Caroline Manzo if like she's having like any kind of like blockers that might be impacting it. Like I don't know. Um, but yeah, I really hope we get to see it. I hope it doesn't just like go into the vault forever and then it's like never to be seen.
And then they'll like unveil it one day on like some like
Yeah,
anniversary or something.
right. Like on Peacock, like 10 years later or
Yeah.
something.
The
Like,
full
come
the
on.
full version.
Yeah. Oh
But
man.
she has like recently been in like social media and news outlets.
Mhm.
She actually most recently was in a magazine saying that she didn't get surgery, like facial surgery in any
Oh,
way, because a lot of people are like commenting on the fact that like she looks so different. I'd still think to
like
be fair.
what I guess it depends on like it's like the Southern charm, like define hookup.
Yeah,
It's like
define.
define plastic surgery
Yeah.
because something's
There's
happening.
something
Like,
happening. She said that
yeah.
she had gained weight, but it's like I don't think that's how that works.
I mean, as somebody who's gained weight
Yeah,
before in
same.
my lifetime, like I don't know if that's fully it, but okay.
Yeah.
Like,
She also spoke out when Rinna left the show
yeah.
earlier this year, kind of in support of Rinna. And she
Hmm.
said, I actually wrote it down. She said, actually, I liked Lisa Rinna, and I felt like it was a low blow. Brandi explains of her response to LVP's tweet when I think like I
Right.
forget what Lisa even
I
said in
don't
response
remember.
to, but
No.
some, you know, they're obviously not friends.
Yeah.
And then she said, obviously, when somebody leaves the show, there's a lot of emotions with it. It's still hard. I just don't like kicking people when they're down. It's not my jam. The reason I wrote this down is
Hmm.
because Brandi and Rinna are so hypocritical in the sense that like
Yeah.
the season that they were so horrible to Lisa had lost her mom and her brother, and they
Hmm.
gave her zero grace, and they very much kicked her when they were down. But
Yeah.
like when it's flipped the other way,
Yeah.
like they are afforded that, you know, safe
Of
space, and it's just
course.
like so frustrating.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. And as you say, like Brandy just also always like defaults to the victim, and like it's just she's always just gonna figure out who she's gonna curry favor with and like go with that. Like, and if Lisa Rinna was her person that she was gonna be able to curry some favor with for whatever in the future, then she was like, yeah, I'll go against Lisa Vanderpump. Like,
Well, yeah, that's it. Like she fully turned on Lisa, and she was like, "Oh, I was her mouthpiece," and like
yeah,
no one can make Randy do anything. Like
yeah,
we
like
all
come
know that very
on.
well.
Yeah,
Like,
and like even if Lisa did want you to plant those like magazines in season 4, like chances are you wanted to plant them in season 4 too, right? Like you're always strategic too. Like don't worry about it. Like it's okay. Everybody's plotting and scheming
I
together.
mean, all the leaks stopped when Rinna went off the show.
That
Just
is true.
saying.
That is true. We have like not heard anything about this show. Like I'm excited. Well, other than like obviously what we know about Kyle and Mauricio, but
Yeah. So
yeah.
unclear like whether I think if there was ever a chance for her to come back as like a
Mhm.
full-time housewife, her Ultimate Girls Trip stint probably put a damper on that. And I
Yeah.
actually found a quote also from Andy. This was a little while back. It was before season 4, but basically he said like when talking about whether or not she'd come back, he's like she's just not really connected to any of the women in a real way anymore.
Mm-mm.
She's just kind of like on an island. So if ever
Yeah.
she did, maybe there would be talk of it. I know she always says like she doesn't want to come back, but like
Well, she literally posted on Instagram last year like a picture of a like little like a
yeah.
diamond that she was like holding in her hand that she like got for Christmas or whatever. And like she like posted it and like everybody like blew up because we were all like, what is happening? Like, is she coming back onto the show? And obviously, like it made it seem like she was, and then now we know that she hasn't.
Yeah, she said
But
apparently that she thought that was just funny. It's like
hilarious.
yeah,
Way to give us a heart attack.
maybe she's like pulling a Jax and hoping if she says it enough times it'll
Right. It'll
happen.
just happen. Yeah, maybe. We'll see.
What on,
But
on another note, it looks like she posts sometimes one of her sons who looks like he's a model. So he
oh,
has like
cool.
Yeah, some modeling shots. Yeah, she posts
Yeah.
her sons and they're like all grown up and you're like,
That's
oh
so
my
crazy.
God.
That's so crazy. I can't believe it. You were
Like
just
all of them.
little kids getting in trouble for peeing like beside the pool.
Like all of the kids are like they're like
Yeah,
adults
adults
now, or
now.
like at least teens. They're
So
they're like
crazy.
18, 19, 20. It's crazy.
Yeah. God.
Um, so
Damn.
I feel like it goes without saying there's so many memorable Brandy moments, but are
Mhm.
some of them that come out like that stand out to you? We talked about, that really horrible meeting when she was
Yeah.
in crutches the first season with like Kim and Kyle.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, I know that she did like her like strip dancing or like pole dancing classes that she was kind of like doing like a little program for. Um, that's the first one that comes to mind because that was pretty interesting. And like obviously those fights with Kyle. Oh, actually, okay, so the one of my favorite moments in all of Beverly Hills history
Whoa.
is yeah, is when they Kyle, Kim, Lisa, Brandi go to Eileen's for poker night. I think it's in season 5. And Kyle and Kim get into a fight, and Brandi gets into like the middle of it, and Kim and Brandi are like starting to leave, like they're holding like a piece of pizza, like Kyle's chasing after them. Brandi like throws her piece of pizza or it gets dropped or whatever because she's trying to like push Kyle away. They get into like a little altercation. They go out into the driveway, and Brandi and Kim, like I think Kim's like just like Kim and Kyle are trying to talk, but Brandi's kind of like involved in it, and she's like trying to get Kyle away from Kim. And in the background, you can see in the like in the garage, like the little like window in the like the garage door, like Eileen Davidson's husband just like
Yeah.
standing there, like looking at the drama, and like that's like literally one of my favorite moments. And though it's not a Brandi moment, it is like a moment Brandi was a part of. I just love it.
I remember
So
that.
good.
That's a good one.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, the things that I remember about Brandy is just like she always takes things too far.
Yeah.
Like just like
Yeah.
oh, so there's like when she slapped Lisa in the face when they were
Yeah.
like on a trip.
Yes,
Uh,
that was really bad. That
and
was really
that's literally what
bad.
Lisa said. She's like she always takes it too far. Like they're just like and it was very much like, like when there's like a kid or something and a kid like throws something or does something they shouldn't and
Yeah.
like Lisa's literally like, "No." Bad Brandy.
Yeah. Sometimes it's the only way you can talk to her though. It's the only
Um
way to get through.
or when she like just completely unprovoked throws a glass of water in speaking of
Oh
Eileen's face
yeah. I
because
think it was a
she
glass of wine.
oh, was it
I
wine?
think it was
Oh
wine.
God.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was bad. That was bad too. Because she
she
was like,
throws it.
oh, she wanted her to like slap her or something, right? She
No,
wanted to
she
do like
wanted
a
her to like play the character that she played on TV who was a
yeah.
villain and she wouldn't
Yeah.
do it and then
Yeah.
she threw water in her
Oh,
face.
yeah.
And like
Bad.
I feel like her first season you almost feel bad for her because she just feels like
Yeah.
so ganged up on.
Yes. Yeah.
Like Kyle and Kim were really mean to her.
Yeah, they were really mean to
But then
her.
she just like oh, is such a loose cannon that like you just
Yeah.
can't feel bad for her.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like she's the person that like because I first watched season 3 and then I went back and watched season 1 and 2, and when I first watched season 3 I felt really bad for her, and then when I kind of like watched further into the show and then went back and watched season 1 and 2, I kind of like rewatched it with like new glasses, I guess, and like just like seeing it from like that different perspective, I was like, oh no, I don't think she is like the little innocent like puppy dog that like I thought she was when I first saw her in season 3.
No,
But
for sure. And
yeah.
also, this is not like even as much a moment here, but like we'll always know that she was, a part of the tie-in to make Beverly Hills and
That
VPR
is
happen.
true. That is true. We'll give her that. We'll give her those props.
Yeah, and she does actually have a good scene when she speaks to Sheena,
Yeah.
like for like I think a second time when she's a little bit less mean to her.
Mhm.
So that was
Yeah.
nice.
That's good. Yeah. There's some moments. There's some redeemable
She
factors
has
there.
some.
We'll let her have that. Well, I think that brings us to our last castmate, who is Yolanda Hadid, or Yolanda Foster, as we first met her. So Yolanda joined Beverly Hills in season 3. She was a Dutch model who like was married to David Foster at the time and had this beautiful, beautiful home in Malibu. That was like super interesting to get to see
With a
her
million
life.
lemons.
A million lemons, like my dream come true. We now know Yolanda, I think, more as kind of like the original almond mom, according to TikTok, at least. And Yolanda she's had a pretty interesting life post Housewives. She kind of continued to try to stay off social media. She's gone on like a 10-month long social media like pause before, so she really doesn't like post too much. But I think now that she's back on social media, when she does post, it's like, you know, pictures of her kids, because she's one of the original momagers. She might not be Kris Jenner levels, but she's definitely a momager. So she definitely wants to like support what like Bella, Anwar, and Gigi are doing. She did get into a little bit of a hairy business in 2021 with Zayn Malik, who is the father of her daughter Gigi's child. So like,
and
that's a weird way to say that.
and formerly One Direction member.
Yeah, one of the boy band members. So it's pretty alleged, right? Like we don't have anything kind of like fully confirmed. Zayn does, you know, deny that anything happened, but there was a charge brought against him from Yolanda of like a bit of an altercation, of like harassment. Yolanda claims that he shoved her into like a dresser and like basically like tried to like throw her out of their apartment or whatever. You know, we don't fully know what happened, and I think that that's like by design. I think like Gigi and Zayn like decided that they didn't want to like have anything else like come out about it, and they've kept it private, along with kind of like the split that the two of them have had. But that was a little bit of something that happened with Yolanda.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's kind of like the Beyonce, Jay-Z, and like
Yes,
Beyonce's sister
it's, yeah,
in the
Solange.
elevator.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, very much so. Except that one we actually have like the I guess the information that we have about that one is that we have the video evidence, but we have like
true.
so little information beyond that. In 2020, Yolanda also got into a new relationship with a CEO of a construction and development company, whose name is like Joey Giglione. Gingoli.
Okay.
That's also the name of the company, apparently. Which makes sense. And beyond that, she's living a very blissful life. She actually has a farm now in Pennsylvania.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and so she just like lives like this like gorgeous life with like horses and meditating and, you know, fresh fruit and vegetables, very much a la kind of like the Malibu home as well, with like all of the millions and millions of lemons, as you say.
Yeah.
And the most recent part of her IMDb page is actually that she was a judge on Holland's Next Top Model, so like another reality TV show, a little spin-off of America's Next Top
Oh my
Model.
God, they're still doing Next Top Models.
Yeah, they are. And so she was in Holland's Next Top Model. She was a judge, and
Cool.
that was in 2022. So
Oh,
yeah,
good for
that's,
Yolanda.
I know she's been up to a lot, but also just like living the good life. Like, geez, just based on her social media alone,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
that's
looks pretty idyllic.
I feel like she was also a really big get for the series as well.
I think
But like
so.
Bella, I don't think Bella and Gigi Hadid were like as like
They
big.
weren't.
Like,
No, that's just it. And that was what was so interesting too, right? Like, so because in the previous two seasons we had already met Mohammed Hadid, who was friends with Lisa Vanderpump, and then in season 3 Yolanda comes along, and all of a sudden we're seeing like Mohammed's like children like with Yolanda on the show, which are obviously Anwar, Bella, and Gigi. And then we're also like seeing like them kind of like having like this like, interesting kind of like co-parenting life, where like we kind of like see the interactions between the two of them, but then also we see like kind of like, you know, their extension of their family with David Foster and kind of how that all works, and this beautiful home that they had in Malibu, and just kind of like their like home family life, which was really nice.
yeah, it must
Yeah,
have more been a get from like the David Foster piece of it, because
I
that felt
think
like really
so.
crazy. But
Yeah.
then I think like as the show was going on, I guess Gigi started to blow up, because like when I went
Yes.
back and watched it, I think Gigi was already big. So it was really
Yeah.
interesting for me to go and see her just kind of
Yeah.
like be this normal teenager and just
I
kind of like
know.
come in and out and like ask her mom questions in the kitchen. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh wow.
Well, that's just it too. And she's like living this like semi-normal life where she's still going to high school, but she has to like be on this like crazy diet, partially instituted by her mother. And like, you know, she has to like start giving up like her like part-time like after school activities because she's starting to model more and
Oh yeah,
more.
yeah.
She like gets like a guest campaign and she moves to New York and she's initially going to study, I think she was going to study criminology in New York at NYU. Um, and then it was just like, well, now she's like the biggest supermodel in the world, so that didn't happen.
That's so crazy.
And then we see the same thing happen for Bella too, right? Because Bella
Yeah.
like is like a couple years younger. And then we see her like move to New York, and then obviously Bella has now like completely blown up as well. Probably even more at this point. She's probably even a bigger model than Gigi is. And we even see like Gigi like assembling Bella's like portfolio or like whatever it's called when you're a model.
Yeah.
Your model book. um, but yeah, so it was a big get, I think, in general, but also like being able to look back at those like scenes now and like know what they've actually become on their own is like pretty
It's
incredible.
even more of like a capsule. It's
Oh
really
yeah,
cool.
it really is.
Yolanda's so funny. I was watching some of her first season just to kind of
Yeah.
like remember. And it
Yeah.
was when her and David threw a dinner party and they were also just like so obnoxious. Like when oh, who was it? Not Brandi. Oh my gosh, what's her name? Who is on OC now?
Oh, Taylor Armstrong.
Taylor. Yeah, Taylor was like drunk and singing
Yes.
and like very rudely David Foster is like, you can't, like, you don't sing, like, you don't
Yeah.
talk, you don't speak, you
Yeah.
sit there and you listen to our beautiful
Yeah.
like, you know, musicians who we've brought
Yeah.
in. Or like
Yeah.
someone would ask Yolanda like, oh, what's like David doing? She's like, oh, he's home with Barbara Streisand.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, he's just touring around with Andrea Bocelli. Don't worry about
Yeah.
it.
Or
Totally
when
casual.
Yolanda said there's nothing more ugly than a drunk woman. She was very
Yeah.
traditional in a lot of
She was
her
very
thoughts.
traditional. I have to admit, I really liked Yolanda at the beginning.
Minus
Mainly
that part.
well, minus that part, but I liked her bluntness, and I think there's like
Mhm.
something in like the Germanic kind of like
Yeah.
in like Dutch and like the whole like that part of the world that is like very blunt, and I really appreciate that. And so I think that I enjoyed her for that, kind of similar to how like LVP, when she was on, like her British personality kind of like clashed with the Americans quite often. It's kind of
Yeah.
interesting, that
Yeah,
dynamic.
that's true.
And I loved Yolanda's athleisure wear. I
Yes.
like, to this day, I am inspired. Like my Saturday mornings, I'm like, I want to just look cute in my little athleisure wear. Like, what would Yolanda be wearing right now? So, I can respect her from that. But TikTok has definitely done a number on Yolanda, and they have gone back and they
Has
have
it?
analyzed every
Oh.
one of those scenes where she is telling her daughters to not eat anything or to eat just
Oh.
like a couple almonds.
Yeah, that's fair. Even in the first episode here, or in one of the episodes that season, she
Yeah.
is like telling Kyle about the wonders of this like
The
lemon
master
cleanse
cleanse.
that she's
Yeah,
done for 10
yeah,
days where she doesn't
yeah.
eat or
Doesn't eat
anything.
anything. She just drinks like lemons with cayenne and maple syrup or something. Like it's nothing.
Yeah,
Oh my
you're like,
god.
oh, maybe not.
Not a great look, but okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. We don't need to get into it, but it's definitely aged. I think it's probably the thing that has aged the most. I think in general we try to be a little bit more inclusive on different body types and how we all look and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But Yolanda, not the case.
But yeah, that's it for our recap of the ladies of season 1 through 4. And then next time we'll do a part 2, and because there's a lot of
There's a
people.
lot more people out there.
There's been a lot of people in Beverly
There's
Hills.
a lot of people. Apparently 28.
Apparently 28.
Now we know.